Rick Horrow, Sloan Analytics, MIT conference, winding down day one, and people are still clamoring for those conversations with guys in a position of hiring, people in a position of getting advice. This still is one of the most dynamic conferences you could ever deal with sports analytics. I find it ironic, we've talked about it before, that sports analytics 10 years ago was just a couple of guys with an abacus. Not really, but it's certainly progressed very significantly over time. Milton Lee, the CEO of Key Motion, one of those companies that we'll learn a little bit more about. We'll also remember some of your experiences with the Barclays Center and the Nets. Milton, good to see you. Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Absolutely. And so, a shameless plug early. Thank you for telling me at the beginning of this interview that you're one of the 2 or 3 people that actually read my book and got something out of it. Thank you.
It was very helpful. I mean, if you're not in that arena, you have no idea what goes into building an arena and all the constituents involved. It was very helpful.
Well put on that. And you kind of cut your early teeth, Ratner, Barclays Center, that whole development process in the Nets, and Prokhorov. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I came on as Prokhorov's advisor when he was looking at the team, and obviously Barclays Center was integral to that deal. And as Prokhorov was going to put in 45% of the funding for Barclays Center, he was going to have a big say in both how it got built, but also, the constituents were going to have to approve Prokhorov and his involvement in it. So there was a lot of what was not obvious to me is how unique an arena development is, because you have so many different constituents that use it on a daily basis, and to fulfill all those people's needs is really an incredible task.
Well, and certainly it happens that way in every city, probably magnified in a place like Brooklyn, where there were a whole bunch of other intra-borough politics as well as the whole public-private partnership piece.
That's actually what I took away from your book, and the amount of people that you had to appease, for lack of a better word, to bring them all to the table and get people to agree on a compromise that fulfills everyone's needs. A place like Brooklyn, hardcore, union-intensive, a project that was delayed year after year after year. I mean, you went through this. Things look like they don't happen, and then magically they come together at the last minute.
And when something's not happening, it's because things are happening elsewhere that you don't see.
Exactly.
Probably part of the issue. You look back on your Nets experience, positive, building something that's really good. Does it matter that the team's only won 9 games at this point to you? How do you feel about it?
I would say that it doesn't keep me up at night, and I'd feel a lot better if they were winning 60 games this season. But, certain decisions were made, as Adam Silver just talked about. We really went for it. And, the pain afterwards is probably greater than anticipated. Nobody's happy about where the Nets are right now, including probably the league. In fact, the only people that are happy are the people in Boston. But, we did a lot of great things. Moving a franchise from New Jersey to Brooklyn. I was also in charge of their analytics. I was in charge of their minor league operations, and bringing the first international owner to the NBA, the first majority international owner. There are a lot of great things to be proud of.
Let's return to that in a minute, but the Boston thing is interesting since this is distributed in Boston as well. So everybody feels good about the league, except unless you're competitive in the Atlantic Division, and here it is. So the interesting thing about the NBA and competitive balance, if you were to advise the Celtics today, which you're not, but give us some perspective on where you think they sit.
I was just having a conversation with a Celtics executive, and I was marveling at the fact that they're 39-22 with no superstars, with potentially a number 1 pick in the next 2 drafts. This year, which may be a monumental draft, they're sitting pretty. I thought it was a no-brainer not to trade for Paul George and give up the assets that they were being asked for. Danny Ainge is one of the great poker players in the game of front office sports, and I think he's doing a perfect job. He's got all the leverage.
Well, the interesting thing about the dynamic nature of the salary cap and the television dollars that are available is I would rather have money than no money, but money can't always buy you happiness.
Absolutely.
You got to make some good decisions with those dollars.
Absolutely. Right. And historically, a lot of teams have made poor decisions with those dollars. Right. But the Celtics are well positioned going forward.
Well, and that's an interesting comment for Boston fans. But back to your representation of Prokhorov, when you say you brought a foreign owner, it's not just any foreign owner, it's a Russian owner, and the dynamics of a Russian owner mixing with everybody else. Tell us some stories that nobody else has heard.
Fake stories or real stories?
Yeah, good answer.
You know,
good answer. Stories you're willing to tell.
You know, Prokhorov's an interesting guy, somewhat, I think, a little misconceived. You know, he's known as this playboy that flies around the world and does all these macho things, which he does. He's really an avid sportsman. But there's an element of him that's actually very shy, and he's also very business-oriented in today's day and age. However, does not use a computer, does not use a cell phone, really is old school, slow thinking, and understands where the pressure points and when the time to move is. He had looked at the Nets previously, but after the 08 crisis in 09, he understood what kind of deal he could get, and he pounced on what he thought, you know, was a great opportunity.
And it's a real estate deal too, obviously, which is key. What was it like dealing with a person in this day and age that was old school technologically?
Well, he had enough people around him that would filter the information to him. What I think was challenging, one of the challenges maybe for Prokhorov and his chief staff people is that in European basketball, and Russia specifically, there's just a different way of doing business than in the U.S. And so there's no salary cap restrictions. There isn't the evenness of the playing field in a lot of ways that the NBA brings. And maybe it took them a little while to get up the learning curve. And so communicating some of those things when they're versed on a certain way of doing things, you know, it's a cultural difference in a lot of ways. You know, that was something that they are well aware of now.
Well, good luck to the Brooklyn Nets, but you're on to other things.
Yeah.
So tell us about KeyMotion.
Yeah, KeyMotion is a fantastic technology. It's an automated video production of professional basketball games. And so, similar to a driverless car, we film, produce, and stream basketball games without cameramen. Now, why that's important is because it's actually very expensive to produce NBA games. It costs upwards of $100,000 per night to produce a game. For the games that we're producing, and we produce 5 professional leagues over in Europe, when you break down the costs over the course of the season, it's sub $1,000 per game, HD quality, completely produced, and advertising embedded.
Cameramen around the country unite. But leagues and teams around the country, that's the man you ought to be talking to.
No. Wait. You say that in jest. But I will say that it's actually much more about unlocking all those events, all those stories that nobody's ever been able to see before. Right? All those second-tier sports, the Division II. We're currently streaming NAIA games on Fox Sports. We're going to do 31 games in 6 days for the NAIA National Tournament with no human beings. Now, previously, nobody ever got to see those events. Nobody got to see those high school rivalries that maybe we wanted, the incredible plays from across the world that nobody captured. And KeyMotion's going to allow people to produce all those events, monetize the content, and deliver it to all these people. And I call it what's happening in society. We want less of more. We want little snapshots of everything out there. We don't want more of more because we only have this much attention span.
Right.
So we're going to deliver less of more.
So the more of more, however, as it relates to D2 and D3 and all of that in high school is you do really provide the technical streaming of all of the game. It's just a question of which pieces somebody wants to see. They're able to watch any part of it.
So the most powerful part of our solution is the fact that we automate the video production. Again, our cameras will move from side to side, panning in, zooming out, making it look like a human being is behind there. And that is really a powerful solution.
So, as the sun sets over us, I know we've got some issues with the sun, but that's okay. Are we still okay to deal with this? Good. Okay. Talk fast. No. Now, you know, the interesting part about your solution too is that I assume as you become the Mother Teresa of otherwise non-televised sports and bring it to the masses, how do you monetize?
We're a subscription model, so we sell on 3 and 4 year contracts. It's not so different than a car lease. I make a lot of analogies to what's going on in the car industry, not only with driverless cars, but also that we are a leasing model. And we hope that at the end of that 3-year cycle, you're going to upgrade to our new model for another 4-year cycle, which is what just happened in France. We operated there the previous 3 years, 20 arenas. Now we're in 45 arenas for the next 4 years.
So the next driverless airplane or car that has an issue, you're going to start...
Our technology can do that as well. Yes.
I'm sure it could. So the future of this, and let's back up for a second. The thing you have in common, absent the fact that you are much more experienced and you probably have more access to capital than others, is that there are loads of technology opportunities out there. And I haven't talked to one person in the last day who says they have a bad idea. How do you take it from an idea where you have some kind of an epiphany moment to actually getting it done, getting it off the ground?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a lot of sleepless nights. Yeah. There's a lot of begging for business. And then there's oftentimes, in a trajectory of a small business, a moment of inflection where somebody adopts you that maybe you didn't even think was going to be the adopter, and they validate what you were doing. And that's important. So Peter Guber was giving a speech about the most important time in a rocket's trajectory into space is the first 3 seconds. Because if you can lift off of that, you're pretty good to go. We've cleared the first 3 seconds, we hope. And we feel like we're pretty good to go.
Are you outside the Earth's gravitational pull yet or not?
We hope. There'll be room for you.
But wow, if there's room for me, then we're okay,
with
man.
Clients like Golden State Warriors, Villanova Wildcats, all of France, you know, Fox Sports, we feel like we're ready to continue lifting off.
And so 5 years from now, what do you look like?
We're in 110 arenas around the world right now in 10 countries, 3 continents. 5 years from now, it's 5,000 arenas on 6 of the continents. Maybe Africa, not yet. So 5 continents. And we are producing, live streaming, and possibly broadcasting on TV. If TV is still a medium at that point, we don't even know where the world is going to go. You know, I talked about earlier today, you think of what happened in the last week. MLB AM, rumored to be streamed on Facebook Live.
Right, and by the way, they also cut a deal with the Game of Thrones.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, which is kind of an interesting way to get back to their roots. So that's another interesting thing.
YouTube announcing their TV platform, an OTT competitor to what's being announced on TV, and then Snapchat's IPO. So the way that content is being digested is evolving at an incredible place. We're glad that we're part of the curation of this content, which we think is not as crowded as all of those other areas.
I find it an honor or gratuitous that you actually would tell me that you read my book and learned some of the business principles. But more important than that, good luck in the future. This is a can't miss, and I really appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Awesome.